A week before our wedding, my future in-laws took my fiancé on a family trip. He returned acting distant and said, "I think we should take a break." I grinned, handed him a file and said, "That's interesting, because I just got some details on that trip." When he read it, he glared at his parents in pure anger. I was meant to get married last month. Everything was set. The dress was ordered, guests invited, cake arranged. We spent months planning every detail for the big day in Savannah, Georgia, our hometown. I thought all was well. My fiancé, let's call him Derek, and I had been together for 3 years, and I truly believed he was the one. Sure, we weren't perfect, but who is? We hardly ever fought, he made me laugh, and we shared the same dreams. I was happy, except his parents weren't. His mom, Ruth, gives you a look as if she's checking if your shoes are expensive enough to chat with you, and his dad, Walter, only speaks to brag about his car or to grip about kids. They never really warmed up to me. I come from an ordinary background, have a regular job, and I'm not interested in golf club memberships or which college you went to. I knew they thought Derek deserved someone better, but he always told me not to worry. They'd eventually come around. They never did. About a week before the wedding, Derek mentioned his parents were taking him on a family trip to Miami, just one last getaway before tying the knot. The timing felt odd, but I didn't want to argue, so I went along with it. In hindsight, I should have noticed something was off when he was unusually eager to leave, barely even saying goodbye that Thursday. By Saturday night, I sensed trouble. My best friend C, who lives in Miami, what a coincidence, works at a downtown bar where people go to flaunt their wealth. She called me during her shift. "Hey, isn't Derek supposed to get married next weekend?" I replied, "Yeah, so what?" Then she said, "I think I just saw him with his parents and some girl." My stomach dropped. According to her, they'd been sitting at a VIP table all night, Derek, his mom, his dad, and some random girl, young, blonde, with a fake tan and in a short dress. It wasn't like she was just an accidental bystander. C explained that Ruth and Walter were all over this girl, laughing and chatting with her, and Derek wasn't pushing her away either. That's when it hit me. They weren't just taking a break before the wedding, they were setting Derek up with someone new, right before I was supposed to marry him. I barely remember what happened after that call. I just sat on my couch in silence for a long time until anger took over, and when I get mad, I focus. Early Sunday morning, I started making calls and found a private investigator in Miami who specialized in relationship issues. I paid extra to have him tail Derek and his family. By Monday afternoon, I had the first batch of photos. Tuesday brought video footage, and by Wednesday, I had a complete report. Every single event was clear. Restaurants, hotels, bars, poolside outings, shopping, another dinner. Every time, Derek was right next to that girl, holding doors for her, laughing at her jokes, sitting close, while his parents seemed to encourage it. There was even a photo of Ruth and Walter walking ahead, hand in hand, like proud parents, as Derek and this girl trailed behind, whispering. I kept all of this to myself for now. I just waited. Derek came home late on Sunday night. On Monday morning, he showed up at my place. I acted normal, made him coffee, and asked how the trip was. He was quiet, jittery, couldn't meet my eyes. Then he said, "I think we should take a break." I stared at him. A break, only 6 days before the wedding. I didn't ask why or what had changed. I just smiled, reached over, grabbed the folder with the photos and report, and slid it across to him. "Funny," I said, "because I just got some information about that trip." He opened it, looked confused at first, then his face turned white. I watched him flip through the pictures over and over, as if the truth might change if he looked at them long enough. It didn't. That's when the front door opened. Walter and Ruth walked in like they owned the place. Ruth carried a planner, and Walter was busy on his phone. "Hope we're not too early," Ruth said. "We have a lot to go over, Todd." Then she noticed Derek's face, the folder, and me sitting there with my coffee, watching everything unfold. Nobody spoke for a full minute. It was dead silent. Finally, Derek found his voice. "What the hell is this?" he demanded, not addressing me, but looking straight at Ruth and Walter. Walter pretended not to hear while Ruth tried to laugh it off. "Oh, come on, don't be dramatic, Dirk." Derek looked back at the folder, then at me. "How did you get these?" he asked. I shrugged. "Doesn't matter. You and your parents can figure out what to do next. I'm done." That's where things stand now, no decision yet, but the wedding is definitely off. I haven't told most of my friends or family. I'm still trying to figure out what's next. But watching Derek finally realize that his own parents tried to replace me with someone else just 5 days before our vows were supposed to be exchanged, that was the first moment of clarity I'd had in days. The silence after I said I was done hung in the air like a thick fog. Ruth set her planner down on the counter as if we were still going to discuss something mundane like flower arrangements or seating charts. "Let's not overreact," she said, cool and rehearsed, as if I were intentionally being difficult. "These pictures don't mean anything. We just wanted Derek to meet some new people. It's normal." I looked at Derek, who was still fixated on the folder, as if trying to read words hidden in the images. "New people?" I repeated louder than I meant to. "A week before our wedding, you thought that was normal?" Finally, Walter looked up from his phone. "Don't make a scene," he said without batting an eye. We were thinking long term. We didn't want Derek tied down if there were better options. I swear the air left my lungs at the mention of better options. Derek said nothing. He just kept flipping through the folder, as if hoping the outcome would change if he looked again. His face turned red. Was he embarrassed or angry? I couldn't tell. Maybe let them do this, I said. You went along with it. Finally, he looked up. It wasn't like that. What do you mean? I asked. You thought maybe you'd test drive someone new while your fiancé stayed home finishing the guest list? He rubbed his forehead, clearly frustrated, as if I were the problem. I just wanted to keep the peace. I couldn't believe you would rather fly off to Miami to see if someone better was waiting instead of simply telling me you didn't want to marry me, I said. Ruth then plopped down on the couch like she owned the place. This is getting ridiculous. We didn't tell you because we knew how you'd react, emotional, over the top. Look at yourself. I don't know what came over me, but I picked up the folder, pulled out one of the photos of Derek and the girl, Madison, according to the report, and held it up right in Ruth's face. This is absurd, I said. You took her on a trip with your son and tried to replace me. How can you not hear yourselves? Walter stood up and straightened his jacket like he was leaving a board meeting. You should calm down, he said. This doesn't need to get messy. That was when something inside me shifted. Oh, it's already messy, I shot back. And it's about to get a whole lot worse. It just slipped out, but the moment it did, I realized I wasn't bluffing. I still had the rest of the Pies report saved in my email, way more than just printed receipts, room charges, or flight changes. I even had a video of Ruth and Madison at the hotel bar. In that video, Ruth told Madison word for word, once this wedding blows over, you and Derek will have all the time in the world. I hadn't shown that to Derek or anyone else, but now I was wondering if I should. Derek ran his hand through his hair and said, Look, I don't even like Madison. My mom invited her. It wasn't my idea. Did you tell her to leave? Did you tell your parents? I asked. Silence. Yeah, I thought so. Then Ruth stared right at Derek, completely ignoring me, and said, Enough. Don't let her ruin everything. We can fix this. Just tell her you didn't mean it, get her to calm down, and we'll move forward. She said that as if I were just another problem to smooth over. That's when Derek finally snapped, Mom, stop. For the first time, Ruth looked surprised. What? Stop, he repeated more quietly. You're making it worse. Oh, now I'm making it worse? Ruth shot back. I spent months cleaning up after her bad taste. Do you have any idea how embarrassing this wedding has been? The guest list, the menu, the decorations, none of it meets our standard. My head was spinning. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I stared at Derek and thought, is this what you're okay with? You're still defending them. But he didn't answer. That's when my phone buzzed on the table. I glanced down and saw a text from C. Girl, I just overheard Madison at the bar. You won't believe what she's saying. Call me ASAP. I locked eyes with Ruth and said, I think I'm going to make some calls. Standing up, I added, actually, I'm going to make a lot of calls. Walter finally spoke up. Let's be reasonable. We don't need to blow this up into something public. But then I got an idea. If Madison was still in Miami running her mouth, I needed to hear exactly what she was saying. And if Ruth and Walter expected this to stay quiet, they had no idea who they were dealing with. I didn't reply to C's text right away. I just stood there, watching the three of them in my living room on what should have been a normal Monday morning, Derek looking guilty, Ruth annoyed, Walter pretending he wasn't involved, and I wondered, what else are they hiding? If Madison was still in Miami talking, and C thought it important enough to text me at work, there was more to this. I turned to Derek. How long have you known Madison? He shook his head. I told you, I didn't know her before the trip. Ruth scoffed. Please, stop acting like you're on trial. Nobody did anything wrong. But Derek didn't seem so sure anymore. I grabbed my phone and walked into the kitchen to call C. She picked up on the first ring. Hey, you need to hear this, she said. Madison's been here all afternoon, bragging about how she's finally sealing the deal. I stayed silent as C continued. She told her friend, your wedding was never supposed to happen. Apparently, Ruth promised her that if she got close enough to Derek on the trip, they'd handle the rest. I repeated, handle the rest? C confirmed, yeah, like call off the wedding. Madison's been telling everyone that she was flown out to Miami specifically to break you two up. That's when my heart started pounding. This wasn't just a random invite, they planned it. I hung up, walked back into the living room, set my phone on the table, and looked straight at Ruth. So how much did you pay her? She blinked. Excuse me? I pressed. How much did you pay Madison to come on the trip and throw herself at Derek? Walter shifted in his seat, and Derek rubbed his face. Ruth smiled. You really are dramatic. I just got off the phone with someone who heard Madison explain the whole plan. She said you promised her the wedding would be called off so Derek would be available. So again, how much did you pay her? Still no answer. Then Derek looked at Ruth and said quietly, wait, did you actually pay her? Without denying it, she just shrugged. We gave her a little incentive, nothing serious, just a few gifts and some spending money. Why act like it's a crime? I couldn't believe it. They literally paid her to help break us up before the wedding, and Derek just sat there like he was finally realizing how deep in it he really was. I thought you invited her as a friend of the family. He replied, yeah. Ruth laughed, please, you didn't mind her company at all, did you? Then Derek looked sick, and that's when I decided to take it further. Oh, and by the way, I said, Madison's been running her mouth all day. I could share that story with a few people, maybe post it online, maybe let the wedding guests know exactly why things are off. Walter cleared his throat. There's no need for that. Let's not do anything drastic. But I wasn't done. Drastic? I said. You think I'm being drastic? Your family tried to replace me a week before our wedding, and now I'm being blamed as the problem. Then, as if to top it all off, my phone buzzed again with another text from C. Just found out Madison's still in town and she's asking when Derek's coming back. I looked at Derek. Did you know she stuck around? He shook his head fast. No, I didn't. I haven't talked to her since the trip, I swear. But now everything was clicking into place. Ruth hired Madison to mess with Derek's head. Ruth probably promised her more than just some spending money. Madison was clearly expecting this to turn into something real. And Derek? Either he was lying or he was completely clueless. Tell me the truth, I demanded. Did you ever want to call off the wedding before Miami? He hesitated, then finally said, I wasn't sure. And they kept saying maybe I should see what else is out there. I nodded. Good to know, because that's all I needed to hear. I wasn't just dealing with manipulative future in-laws. I was dealing with a man who sat back and let it happen, calling it keeping the peace. And Madison wasn't just some random guest. They were part of a plan that wasn't over. Because if she's still in town waiting for Derek to come crawling back, Ruth's little swap isn't finished yet. And neither am I. Now I have all the proof, and now they know. I knew it was time for them to finally face the consequences. That night, sleep eluded me as I replayed every moment in my head, the trip, Madison's presence, and the lies. Then there was Derek, who admitted he wasn't even sure he wanted to marry me before Miami. Suddenly, the whole trip made sense. It wasn't a family vacation at all, but a setup. By morning, I was clear on what had to be done. I made a few calls, sent the PI report to my best friend C, and texted my maid of honor, Tina, to meet me at the coffee shop near my apartment. I needed backup. Are you sure you're ready for this? Tina asked. I'm more than ready, I replied. It's time they explained themselves, in front of everyone. That's how I ended up inviting Derek, Ruth, Walter, and Madison too. The venue, the actual wedding venue, for an urgent meeting about the ceremony. Ruth loved the idea of a last-minute rehearsal, totally unaware of what was coming. By noon, everyone was there, while the venue staff set up chairs for the real wedding scheduled in a few days. It felt surreal watching them work while my whole relationship was about to implode. Madison arrived last, dressed like she was the bride, short white dress, heels, makeup, ready for a night out. When she saw me, she smirked. I didn't know this was a group meeting, she said loud enough for everyone to hear. Yeah, I figured we'd clear the air, I responded. We all sat at one of the large round reception tables. Derek looked exhausted, Walter was bored, Ruth smirked confidently, and Madison acted like she'd already won. I opened my laptop, connected to the venue's projector, and displayed the photos from the PI report on the big screen behind me. The first slide showed Derek and Madison by the pool. The second slide captured Ruth and Madison having drinks. The third showed Madison kissing Derek on the cheek while Walter looked on. The room went silent. Then I played the video Ruth's exact words. Once this little wedding blows over, you and Derek will have all the time in the world. Ruth's voice echoed off the walls. When the video ended, I turned around and asked, anyone care to explain? Ruth finally broke the silence. Oh, grow up. You're making this into a scandal. Nothing happened. Derek didn't cheat. Madison's just a friend you paid. I replied, we know Madison told everyone at the Miami bar. By now, half of South Beach is aware of the plan. Madison flipped her hair. Well, I wouldn't say half, but yeah, it wasn't exactly a secret. Your little wedding was never meant to happen. Derek deserves someone with class. Tina, who had been silent until then, let out a sarcastic laugh and muttered, Jesus Christ. Then Derek stood up. For a moment, I thought he might defend me. Instead, he looked at his mom, then at Madison, then at me, and said, I think we should all just go our separate ways. It hit me then, he was never going to stand up for me. This wasn't just Ruth's plan. Derek was okay with it. He hadn't initiated it, but he let it happen. He wanted an out, and his parents handed it to him. I closed my laptop, packed it in my bag, and stood up. This is the last time any of you will ever see me. Good luck explaining this when people start asking why the wedding's off. With that, I left. Once outside, Tina followed, handling herself like a queen. Seriously, you should have slapped someone, she said, but that was better. About 10 minutes later, Callie called. You are not going to believe this, she said. Madison's already posting Instagram stories like she just got engaged to Derek, literally hashtagging #future and #upgrade. I just laughed, not because it was funny, but because what else could I do? By the end of the day, word spread. People texted me, asking why the wedding was suddenly canceled. Ruth tried to spin it as mutual differences, but it didn't hold up. Madison couldn't keep quiet, and by next week, everyone knew. Here's the fallout. Ruth and Walter lost many friends. Turns out people don't like being part of a wedding where the groom's parents try to bribe another woman to replace the bride. Derek stayed with Madison for about 3 weeks until she bailed, realizing the promised social status was a sham. No wedding, no fancy lifestyle, no cash, just Derek and his dull personality. Madison got roasted online, and C might or might not have shared some of those Miami stories with the right people. Honestly, it hurt way more than I cared to admit. I kept wondering what I missed, how I didn't see the signs, how Derek let it go so far, and how Ruth and Walter thought they could pull it off like we were characters in a soap opera. But once the dust settled, I realized something. I wasn't married to a man who didn't love me, and I wasn't tied to a family that thought I wasn't good enough. Instead of spending the weekend crying in my old wedding dress, I spent it with my true friends. We threw the most outrageous, non-wedding, party you could imagine, champagne, karaoke, and even my wedding cake smashed with forks. Around midnight, I realized I wasn't sad anymore. I was free. And honestly, that felt better than any wedding ever could.